In this and the following videos, I will present you the organs of the respiratory system. So, the organs of the respiratory system are nose and nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, which subdivide repeatedly, forming the tree-like structure which is known as the bronchial tree. As you can see here, the bronchi divide first into primary bronchus, secondary bronchus, and tertiary bronchus or segmental bronchus. So this whole branching of the bronchi forms the bronchial tree. In addition to that, parts of the respiratory system are the whole lung and diaphragm. These are organs of the respiratory system. Let's have a closer look at each part. If we start with the nasal cavity, within the nasal cavity we can find the inferior, middle, and superior nasal conchae, the pharynx, which is divided into three parts. Actually, we can notice here the nostril and the posterior nasal aperture here. So if we take a picture which shows the detail of the pharynx, we can see that the pharynx is divided into three parts. The nasopharynx, which is the part of the pharynx opposite to the nasal cavity, the oropharynx, which is part of the pharynx opposite to the oral cavity, and the laryngopharynx, which is opposite to the larynx. We have the larynx here. By the way, here in the larynx, we find the vocal folds, the epiglottis. The epiglottis is a cover to the opening into the larynx or into the airway. This epiglottis close and prevent entrance of food and drink into the airway when we eat or drink. This is composed of cartilage covered by elastic cartilage covered by soft tissue. So if we take a picture which shows the detailed image of the pharynx looks like this when viewed from the front side. Anterior view of the pharynx is this. The pharynx is surrounded by cartilage, hyaline cartilage like the thyroid cartilage, which is this one, the cricoid cartilage, and the rest of the cartilages which surround the trachea are incomplete circle, which keep the airway open or patent. So if we take a look into the interior larynx, using this picture, we can see that the larynx consists of the vestibular fold or false vocal cord and the true vocal cord here or vocal fold. This is the source of the sound we make. This is the epiglottis I described earlier, which serves as a cover for the airway, which prevents the entrance of food or drink into the airway. As you can see, this is a cricoid, a cartilage, and these are the incomplete circle cartilages which keep the airway, trachea, and bronchi patent or open for the passage of the air. Here is a picture which shows how the half circle cartilage in the wall of the trachea and the bronchi are. Look, this posterior part is not composed of cartilage. It is actually composed of muscle known as trachealis muscle. By the way, this allows the lumen of the airway to be contractible. It can decrease in size and increase in size because of the contraction and relaxation of this muscle. What we see from behind here is the esophagus, which is a passageway for food. So this is the posterior part, this is the anterior part, this is the incomplete circle of hyaline cartilage, which keeps the bronchi open or patent. The interior of the airway is covered with ciliated pseudostratified epithelium. As you can see here, you can see the hair-like structures, which are known as cilia, lining the interior of the airway. The function of these hair-like structures, together with the mucus which covers the lining of the airway, is to trap debris or dirt which we inhale with the air we breathe in. So these cilia, these hair-like structures, together with the mucus which covers the interior of the airway, traps or removes dirt, impurity which we inhale with the air we breathe in. So I want you to notice that the airway is covered with this tissue, which is known as ciliated pseudostratified epithelium. The bronchial tree consists of divisions into primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, and further subdivides into terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, and alveolar ducts. As you can see here, the alveolar ducts are surrounded by alveoli, which are small, thin-walled, hollow organs, kind of balloon-like structures, which are surrounded by capillaries. The capillaries are final branches of the pulmonary artery, which bring deoxygenated blood, meaning saturated with carbon dioxide but depleted of oxygen, from the heart to the lungs. So these alveoli are hollow organs or balloon-like structures, very thin-walled, which are actually where air ends up, where air brought in through these bronchioles and alveolar duct ends in. So as we can see on the next picture, which is this one, these alveoli are surrounded by capillaries, which are branches of the pulmonary artery. So as you can notice, the terminal bronchiole, the respiratory bronchiole, and the alveolar duct do not have those incomplete circles of cartilage. They are rather surrounded by this smooth muscle, which can contract and narrow down the lumen of the airways, and which can relax and widen it. So the lumen, or the size of the lumen of the airways, is subject to change by the relaxation and contraction of this smooth muscle. So if we take a closer look at the alveoli and the capillary, that would be this, we can see that alveolus is a hollow organ or balloon-like structure with very thin wall, actually composed of a single layer of cells, and those cells are type 1 alveolar cells, type 2 alveolar cells. By the way, these type 2 alveolar cells produce a fluid known as surfactant, which prevents the alveolus, this thin-walled hollow structure, from collapsing. Otherwise, the surface tension produced by the fluid lining the interior of the alveoli would have collapsed the alveoli, but they don't because of surfactant produced by type 2 alveolar cells. As we saw in the previous picture, the alveoli are surrounded by capillaries. Here is one capillary, another capillary, another capillary, another capillary, and another capillary in which blood flows. Capillaries are the smallest branches of the circulatory system. Namely, these capillaries which we find here in the lungs are branches of the pulmonary artery, which brings deoxygenated blood, meaning blood saturated, loaded with carbon dioxide, and depleted of oxygen. The purpose of this blood coming here is to release or drop carbon dioxide here into the alveoli and pick up oxygen. This is the border between the capillary and the alveolus, as you can see here. This double layered structure, which we have here, a single layered wall of the capillary and a single cell layer wall of the alveolus. This is also a single cell layer of the capillary. Together, they make the respiratory membrane, as you can see here. The components of the respiratory membrane are alveolar epithelium, capillary epithelium, and in between them sandwiched the basement membrane of the two epithelia. By the way, these two epithelia are composed of a single cell layer. That makes it a very thin wall and convenient for diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide across this respiratory membrane. By the way, the flow or the movement of carbon dioxide from capillaries, from the red blood cells which brought the carbon dioxide here into the alveoli, is facilitated by diffusion, happens due to diffusion. As you might remember, diffusion is the flow of substances from where it is in excess to there where it is less or absent. So you can see that there is more carbon dioxide in this blood, which comes as a branch of the pulmonary artery, where here we have more carbon dioxide because of that carbon dioxide moves or diffuses from the capillary into the alveolar lumen, and there is more oxygen here in the alveolus, so by the law of diffusion it moves from there where it is more to there where it is scant or less. So this is respiratory membrane across which exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. The next structure of the respiratory system I would like us to look into is that the lungs are surrounded by two layers of membrane known as pleurae. If we take a piece here at the border of the lungs, this is what we get. This layer, which is adhered to the lungs, is known as visceral pleura, and the other one, which lines the interior of the thoracic cavity, is known as parietal pleura. In between them is pleural cavity or pleural space. So this can be seen in more detail on the following picture. Look here. This is a transverse section through our chest. So what we can see here is the visceral pleura, which is directly adhered to the lungs, and the parietal pleura, which is adhered to the thoracic or the chest wall. In between them, thoracic pleural cavity. This cavity has role in our breathing. By the way, what you can see here is the two secondary bronchi, and this is pulmonary trunk and the two pulmonary arteries, right and left pulmonary arteries branching out. You can see here at the same time the bronchial tree plus the branches of the pulmonary arteries are visible here, and this is a good picture where we can see the not only the visceral and parietal pleura and the pleural cavity, but also the relationship between the heart and the lungs. The heart, as you can see, is more on the left side. By the way, the left lung has two lobes or two parts, and the right lung has three lobes or three parts that can be seen here also. Look, two lobes, this being the border between the two lobes, and one, two, three lobes on the right side. Upper, middle, and lower lobe. Lower and upper lobe on the left side. Two lobes on the left, three lobes on the right. So this is to show you the picture of the pleurae and the pleural cavity.